Hey guys, this is Darshan Momaya.
And this is Naman Shah. And today we have with us Mr. Rathin Shah on our third podcast, third episode of our series Casting Commerce.
Penny is a fintech startup that helps you save and invest the spare change of every transaction. We all shop goods online and avail services online, and that's when we link our bank accounts to the transaction. How to make this experience a little bit more fruitful, and that's why we have Mr. Rathan Shah with us here today.
So, hello, sir. Just a little bit introduction about you. We got to know that you're a graduate from BITS Pilani, and you have a lot of interest in the field of entrepreneurship and the field of finance. So, and apart from that, I did a little bit of stalking, and I came to know that you like stand-up comedy. You like traveling a lot, and it's really good to get on a conversation with you on your startup. You're a really versatile person, and so we're really happy to have you, sir, and thanks a lot for joining us. So
Yeah, thank you so much. First of all, Darshan and Naman, thanks so much for inviting me over to this exciting podcast, Casting Commerce, and really excited to speak about the journey and share whatever I can from whatever little things that we've done so far.
sure. So we all know, like all our listeners know, the central idea of what Spenny does. Investing the spare change, and they invest in a mutual fund. So can you just speak a little bit more about how did Spenny evolve? Like how did this whole idea evolve, and how did you come
Yeah,
up with this in the overview of the startup?
yeah, absolutely, man. Happy to. So basically, um, I think it all started back when I was I used to work as an investment banking analyst at JP Morgan. And during that was the time when I realized and noticed that a lot of friends and family members would keep asking us, where should we invest, where should we save, how should we save, where should we invest, etc. And there was a consistent pattern with develop. I got to know eventually that basically all the people, like especially young people between the ages 22 and 38, like people who are just getting out of the university and getting into the first jobs, etc. These kind of people, the thing is, they don't have a lot of knowledge, or we don't have a lot of time to do the research as to where to do the investments. And oftentimes at the beginning of your career, you also don't have like a large amount of money to begin investments with. So those are the top three problems. Not a lot of knowledge, not a lot of time, and not a lot of money to begin with. Now, when you couple that with the existing things, which is that today in the market, if you go, you keep on hearing that mutual funds sahi hai. But the fact is, when you actually go to any sort of mutual fund website, there are like 2,000 mutual funds listed, and you got to tell yourself like 2,000 mutual funds can't be sahi hai all at the same time. So I mean there is this overwhelming pressure of doing the research and making the right choice of where to invest, and therefore because of this whole inertia, people actually don't end up investing, and rather like most people just keep their bank money in their bank accounts. Like majority of the people just have the money lying in the bank savings bank account. Nothing is happening of that. So the idea was to make it very simple and very fast. The idea was to get an idea where we sort of attract the youngsters, yeah, the young generation, like our kind of generation who spends a lot, generally digitally, pretty much through their cards or pretty much using UPI apps, etc. So the idea was that to help these kind of this population invest faster, quicker, easier, and take the decision process away from them. Make it as simple as possible. So that was the base concept or the idea from which where we evolved. Eventually, right now, our present idea is that every time a user, or like every time someone does any digital transaction, whether it's through the debit card or credit card or any of the UPI apps, including Google Pay, Phone Pay, Paytm, etc., or even net banking. Basically, when you do any digital transaction, we round up the amount to the nearest 10 rupees and we invest it for the user automatically into a diversified portfolio. That's the basic sort of the idea right now. And so far we have now expanded to more savings, more ways of SIPs and savings goals, etc., so that we can help more savings and investments.
So, like, since you told about users, right? So I'm a user. Consider me to be a user, and I spend rupees 16 just for per se. I spend 16 rupees. Then what do you do with the rest 4 rupees? Like, if you tell it nearest 10, so it would be 20, right? So the rest 4 rupees gets invested. So now I have on my phone, I'm buying something and I use an UPI app or I use debit card. And from there on,
Yeah.
how does Penny take me through?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So actually, let me walk you through the entire process on the user side. So the first step is that you sort of download the product. It's an app, so you install the app on your phone. And the second step is that you link your bank account with us, and that can be just one savings bank account or any particular bank account that you link with us. Once you've done that, that's all you need to do. No more steps after that. You can just go out into the real world and live your normal life. You don't need to open the Spenny app at all, actually. And then you go out and then you start sort of using go out to a cafe. You use your debit card, or you do an Amazon sort of a booking, sorry, a purchase, Amazon purchase, using your UPI app, or you book a cab, etc. When you do any of these digital transactions, your after you've done the transaction, you will get a message of confirmation from the bank. And once you receive a message of confirmation, that's where Spenny gets to know that you've done a transaction. So we pick that message up from your phone. We get to know about the amount. We round it up to the nearest 10 rupee. So let's say if you went to Starbucks and you bought like a coffee worth 273 rupees, then we round it up to 280. And this difference of 7 rupee is sort of debited from your account, which you'd link with us in step two. And that money flows from your account directly into the fund house where the money is invested.
Right. So I get the idea, and I also understood that you put into the like you. I'm assuming that you put it into ICICI mutual funds, right? So like,
Yeah.
why was that taken? I mean, like, why did you choose ICICI and not something else? Like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a fair question. So we to decide where we wanted to invest in, we first did a lot of survey. In fact, we spoke with a lot of customers. We wanted to understand what the customer requires their money to be saved or invested in. Like, not by like straight away asking them where do you want to invest, but more like understanding what is your use case, what's your average income, how frequently do you withdraw money, or do you want to keep it for the long term, etc., etc. So based on all these factors, we came up with we realized that what we need to do is to come up with three buckets: um, 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 a low risk portfolio, a medium risk portfolio, and a high risk portfolio. That was the intention. And also have something else like a proper physical asset like gold that the user can also invest in. So in total, we want to have like three or four options, and not more than that. So the idea is that we'll have like gold, a medium risk portfolio, a low risk portfolio, and a high risk portfolio. These four as the options for the user. Now, currently we started with ICICI because obviously we can't start with all the four immediately. So we said, that's we follow like the lean methodology where we just want to get started with one, get feedback, and then add another, and then add another, etc. So to begin with, the idea was we'll start with the low risk profile. And so for low risk, the ICICI's current mutual fund, like the liquid prudential fund that we invest in, is one of the best out there in the market. In fact, if you check the returns over the last 7 years, the 5 years since the fund has been existing, it's the highest out there in the market. So it was like an obvious choice. And then after that, we just had to speak with them, set up an agreement. And ICICI being such a ubiquitous name in the Indian market, they're a trusted name, so there's nothing to be fishy about. So yeah, that's how we decided we wanted to start with the ICICI one first.
Okay. Yeah. Got it. Got it.
So, like how you told, you want to have different portfolios, right? Like a low risk profile, a high risk one, like that. So since your idea is so well established, and that's the reason I think your dream of getting onto the Y Combinator backed up fintech startups. So you got that opportunity, and people assume it to be one of, it's too prestigious to be on that platform, right? So how do you feel, that being a dream and then coming it to a reality today?
I feel like, first of all, there are a lot of I'd say myths around the whole YC thing, which are not really true. So, for example, one of the myth is that, as you mentioned, that your idea has to be very well established for you to get into Y Combinator, etc. Which I seriously think is not the case. And I'll tell you why. Because as a startup, I mean, inherently, you are never stable, or in the sense you're never at a level where everything is sorted out or you have all the answers. That's never going to be the case. So and especially in the early stages, your idea probably changes way more. I mean, there are significant pivots, almost every month, almost every quarter, etc., for a product, especially in the early stages. So I wouldn't say that the idea was very well established, which is why we got into YC. YC inherently, when it sort of takes startups, it's not actually looking for like established ideas. What it's looking for is a couple of things. One is that, first of all, in whatever field that you've chosen to be in, how quickly do you execute? That's one of the biggest factors. So basically, your idea may not be great, but if your execution is A1, in the sense that you were quickly able to get up from your transform your product from just an on-paper concept to an actual reality, and in a very very short frame of time, using very little money. That is what YC is actually looking for. They want you to be on your toes, and that's number one. And the second biggest thing that they look for is how deeply do you know your industry, in the sense that you should know every single metric out there. Like if you have 100 customers, it doesn't matter if you have 100 customers or 1,000 customers. What I was mentioning was, the first thing that YC looks at is the speed of execution, in the sense that how well and how quickly you execute. So that's one. And the second thing that YC really looks at is how well do you know your numbers, in the sense the industry numbers, your product numbers, etc., your traction numbers, etc. So it doesn't matter if you have too many customers, even if you don't have too many customers, like you may have just 100 users at the moment, that's fine. But for those 100 users, you should know every single number, thoroughly on your fingertips. Like, how many people did come in, what was the funnel conversion ratio, and how many people actually stayed, what was the retention rate, why, if they left, why, if they're staying, why, etc. So you need to know those answers, and you should have thought through those things. So that's the top two things that that YC looks at. And I think that is, apart from the other obvious factor, which is the founders themselves. um, because if you look at from YC's perspective, uh, a lot of YC startups actually change their idea after they get into YC. A lot of they completely change the idea, they change their customers, they change their business. So many pivots happen, but the one thing which remains constant is are the founders, basically. And so what YC is looking for is that, is this the right founder to put the money on? Because that's the one constant which is going to be there. Everything else is variable. The market will change, the situations will change, the idea will change, etc. But the one thing which is common is the founders. So that's another thing that they bet on.
Yeah. So they bet on the, like, not bet, I would say, but they actually invest on the person rather than investing on the idea. Like, is that what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, I would argue so. Yes, definitely. Especially the early, in the more early stages, the founders are way more important, because you really don't have like a sustainable business right now. You really don't have like a million users right now. All you have is yourself, and you've got to market yourself well. So
Yeah, I think that's what I've actually read about this a lot. They actually, whenever a VC or an angel investor is investing in your startup, like, they do look at the revenue, but then they actually look at the founder, and they look at his passion, they look at his dedication. So I feel like, when you start up, like, those are the things which are more important than how many users you have, how much revenue have you got in the past 1 year or so. So I think like it's very important for a founder to be dedicated and like fully into the startup, and only then a person will like VC will invest in you.
That is true. I agree 100%. I mean, uh, it's the people which are at the center of it. I mean, in fact, you have like live examples right now unfolding in front of us. Like during this pandemic, so many businesses, forget about early stage startups. I mean, we all know that early stage startups have to pivot or have to cope up with so radical situations very, very quickly. But even companies like Airbnb was supposed to IPO this year. They were so close to filing their IPO, and then the pandemic hit, and Airbnb
Yeah.
literally depends on this kind of business, and they had to I mean, the whole bit, literally the business standstill went into a standstill. When the pandemic hit. But credits to like the way the founders like Brian Chesky and the entire team, the way they managed or they steered through, such that in September 2020 they have more revenues in September 2020 as opposed to in September 2019. So that is like
Wow.
year to date revenue is now higher with half a year of a pandemic. Now that is because they managed to
Yeah.
do something. They managed to pull a rabbit out of the head somehow. So and I think that is credits to how the founders take steer that ship. So I feel like, yeah, definitely very important.
Amazing, amazing. And speaking of founders, speaking about you, you come from the background of BITS, right? I mean, like we have BITS tag associated with us. So, like, can you just throw some light upon how this BITS tag has helped you in your journey? And I saw, and you were the president of the entrepreneurship club, which was yeah. So like what was your journey like, and like since the very beginning you were focused on entrepreneurship, so how did this bit tag help you?
Yeah, right. So I think I believe whatever I mean as a person, my whole entrepreneurial drive and sort of giving wings to this dream. Actually, everything, all of those things started in BITS. I was in BITS Goa, so I remember like my first when we have the orientation day, when the new students come in, and there is a club and a department orientation day when all the different clubs and departments tell us about in the Audi. They tell the students about what the clubs and departments are, and then
Hmm.
apply for inductions, etc. I still remember cells sort of cells this thing the orientation, and I
Brilliant.
and I had decided, like, that was the day when I thought, I have to get into cell, because that's the time when I had started thinking about entrepreneurship, and I really wanted to start up one day. That was always my dream. And so yeah, I mean, I think right from day one, which is that like BITS provided us with a framework where they can in like a sort of a safe way, because we're still in college, but you had the time and the energy and the resources to play around with startups. And I got a chance to intern at one of the startups which was started by a BITS Goa founder in when I was in my first year. It was called Top Talent, and it is run by Varun Deshpande, who is currently running Sequoia-backed Sequoia-backed Nuo, the Bitcoin exchange. So amazing guy, and I got to learn quite a lot from him. And then took my learnings from there. Tried to start a couple of ventures while on college, with a few friends. Didn't really go well, but we got to learn so much. And I mean, at that time, we were just having fun. Like, the idea was just, we were trying to apply to be school competitions, and we were just going there, we were applying, we were going there, we're having fun, etc. In fact, one of those chances led us to, Dubai as well. And it was just, pure fun. But then those things really helped later on, significantly. And then my first startup, which like my first proper startup, which was called RecoPro, was something that sort of started during what we have known as the NVC, which is New Venture Creation course, back
Oh
on
yeah.
campus. So
Mridula ma'am.
yes, with Mridula ma'am, yeah, exactly. So we had our first like RecoPro started as a product of that. And although we didn't continue it right away after college. So after college, me and my other founders, my other co-founders, all of us went different ways. But then eventually, after doing like a couple of years of job in JP Morgan, I decided to quit my job and I started RecoPro once again. So yeah, I literally the first startup started at BITS. So it has definitely helped a long way. One recent example of the BITS community as a whole. Like this was apart from the university, yes, but the BITSin community in itself is also very pro entrepreneurship, and how it helps. It's crazy because I was before starting, like just about when I was starting Spenny, we were actually I was about to go to a business school actually. I was about to go to INSEAD, and I decided to skip MBA, but I wanted to get into entrepreneur first, which is an accelerator in Singapore. And the person who referred me there was Sahil Tapiawala, also from BITS Goa. And he himself had been a founder who had gone through the EF program. So I reached out to Sahil, and Sahil immediately put me with the right people at EF Singapore. I gave the interviews and eventually got in. But like there is a Bitsin who has a direct hand in today what we are today, that we are, what position we are at. So yeah, I mean, literally every step of the way, that has been a great network to have.
Absolutely, absolutely. I totally agree with you. I mean, just to give an example of what happened recently, a student required some funds, like, 7 lakhs or so, and the Bitsin community stood for her, and then they just collected 7 lakhs in a span of 48 hours. So I think our Bitsin community is very strong, and I mean, really hats off to everybody.
That's amazing, man. I mean, that's amazing. I've seen that happen like in front of me. So yeah, I mean, I totally understand. That's great.
So, like when you talk about the journey of an entrepreneur, like I think you're still evolving, right? Like it's somewhere in
100%.
midway. And when you spoke of Airbnb, it's well established and all of that today. But when the pandemic hit, it just had a, it was just close to being in an IPO, but it couldn't because of all of this. So when we see Spenny, I think digital payments is something that is the most important. The whole framework is around that. So considering the pandemic, everything has gone digital. So do you feel this to be a plus point in the change of trend at an even more faster rate?
Yeah. First of all, when you said that, we went, like we were in the middle of our entrepreneurial journey, I think, I mean, we are still beginning. I mean, it's not even like literally just the first step. I mean, we are so young into this, and there's so much more to do and so long to go. I mean, we're just getting started. And yeah, so that's I think where we are at. And coming to the digital journey part, digital payments, 100%. I think not just the fact that there is a pandemic, but ever since 2016, which is when demonetization happened back in November 2016, November December 2016. India has started moving digital. India has started moving online, and more so because of the entire UPI network. 2017 and 18 saw the rise of so many UPI apps, and people doing like normal day-to-day transactions online. And in 19 and 20, what has now effectively happened is that there are more payments being done, using on the UPI apps, using Beam and Google Pay, Phone Pay, etc., as opposed to on debit cards or credit cards. So 100%. I mean, all of these, like the pandemic, the demonetization, etc. Everything is a push for people to start using the digital payments. No question about it at all.
Amazing. And I hope, like, if this pandemic will, surely benefit your startup. So like, that's one great thing. And like, I had a question. I did a little bit of a little stalking, and we came to know that you like to travel a lot. You like to do things apart from entrepreneurship, like playing tabla, doing stand up. So yeah, you're in a like whole holistic person, and you do a lot of stuff apart from the work. So how do you think all this has helped you in your professional life and like grow as well? Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a funny story because I mean, so the whole thing was it was actually because in 2017, I think, yeah, 2017, 2015, I graduated out of BITS from I graduated out of BITS in 15, and then from 15 to 17 I was with JP Morgan. In 17 I quit my job to sort of start my like restart sort of my company Reco Pro. And so, and it was going like ran worked with great people there at Reco Pro for like a couple of years, and in late 2018ish was when I sort of decided that I really want to explore something else beyond Reco Pro. And that was the time when I really started questioning everything. And it's a stereotypical quarter life crisis that properly hit me. And I was like, I was in the middle of it felt like I wasn't sure anymore, like what do I really want to do with my life, and like what is it that I actually want to pursue, or what is it that I actually want to gain out of life. And so it was a big question mark at that time. And so I realized that I have many different interests, and I really and there are things beyond startups that are really I'm attracted to as well, and I wanted to explore those things. Like I at least wanted to try those things, if not for anything, at least for the fact that okay, at 45 or at 50, I don't want to have the regret that oh maybe I didn't try something and maybe I could have done something else. I didn't want to have that regret, and I really wanted to be sure about what the next step was going to be. And so I took literally about 8 or 9 months out of like I did not work on anything for about 8 or 9 months. Um, but what I did was that for the next these 8 or 9 months, I sort of divided every month. I dedicated 1 month to doing one particular thing or an activity. So so for 1 month was travel blogging. So I wrote the travel blogs. I put up the vlogs, etc. The 1 month was dedicated to like stand-up comedy, and I really wanted to explore that entire art form. So I wrote comedy. I went up on stage. I did lots of open mic gigs. I performed stand-up comedy at many various places. So those are the things that I did in like 1 month. Then another month, I had always been training for tabla all through my life, ever since I was like 6 years old or something. So I was very close to music in that sense, and I wanted to explore that angle. So for 1 month, I dedicated myself to just doing music. I created covers, and I explored other different forms of music, like body percussion and a lot of other interesting stuff, which is like body percussion is like creating music without the use of instruments, just using your body. So those are the kind of various different experiments, man. So that whole like 8-10 months was an experimental phase in my life where I was just trying to figure out myself, and figure out what I really want to do, what my profession could be, etc. And during those times, I realized I think I really understood a lot about myself. I discovered like I had a lot of confusion, and I had a lot of like like what do I really want to do, a la question in my head. And during those 8-10 months, by doing things, I actually clarified. I got to know what I'm good at. I got to know what I'm not good at. I got to know what I really would like to do as a profession, etc., etc. And finally, came to the answer. So yeah, once I decided this is what I want to do, at least for the next 5 years, 5, 7, 10 years, etc. Like for this thing of my life, I really want to be dedicating myself to a startup. That's how they started.
Wow, this is such an amazing story of like getting to yourself. Amazing, like really good to hear that. But like coming to the next question, like a lot of listeners, are like who are pursuing entrepreneurship, or you want to like who want to become entrepreneurs. So what message do you have for them, or either in the terms of like some books you want them to read, or like how can one enter into the field of entrepreneurship and like think about ideas and so on.
Okay. All right. I really think that entrepreneurship is a great equalizer, um, because you don't need to read books for it,
Oh,
or you don't need to, like, all right, if you want to be a doctor, you have to you have to get a degree. If you want to be a lawyer, you have to get a degree, right? When it comes to entrepreneurship, it is as good as you are for that particular field, which means that the more you study about your industry where you are in, or like or you talk, the more you talk to users, the more you research about a product, the better you get. You don't need a degree, you don't need to read one particular thing that will suddenly help you in entrepreneurship. So as cliche as it may sound, I really think that there is no one book that will that really helps you you know become like suddenly become great at entrepreneurship. And I feel like the best way to do it is to just do it. Like, it's I don't wait for inspiration, don't wait for a motivational quote on something which is going to change your life. uh, just get started, man, just get started. Having said that, if there is one book which I personally liked a lot, um, and I connected to a lot, not I can't say connected, but I really liked a lot, is Elon Musk's book, like Ashley Vance's book on Elon Musk, simply because I really admire two things. In that, the one thing is that his whole entire first principles thinking approach. In a sense, that a lot of people say that his first principles thinking approach is great, but when you actually read Ashley Vance's book on Elon Musk, you realize how deep that means. What, like, the depth of that statement is insane. In the sense that his methodology of working, it's insane. So that's one. And two is how he has this innate ability to get things done. He thinks of something and he gets things done. Like, it's in, like, I cannot think of any other person apart from him who has this crazy ability. I mean, probably Jeff Bezos, but very few people have this ability to just get things done. And it's part of the attribute to that goes to his ability to find the right people for the right thing. He has this crazy way to just attract the right kind of talent. um, I mean,
Yeah,
if
he
I
doesn't believe in college degrees, right? Yeah.
exactly, he doesn't believe in college degrees for sure. And he believes in, like, doing it rather than, if you've done something that's more, if you've been hands on, then that's the best thing that there can be. So yeah, I mean, I think that's one book which I really like. But yeah, I want to re-emphasize on the fact that there is no one book or there is no one thing which is going to change. So yeah.
Sure, absolutely true. Okay.
Okay, so this would be the last question. Okay, to this I would want to ask you that, like you told, in the next 5 to 7 years, you want to dedicate yourself to a startup. So, where do you picture yourself in this 5 to 7 years? Probably you want to, like, even if the startup does well, and then you want to hand it over to someone and do something else, because like, we will have a lot of thoughts in our minds to do so many things. And or do you want to, like, if it hits right, hits the dart, then you want to grow it even bigger? And that would be my question. And while you end it, it's just a small request, if you could do that non-instrumental, playing for us towards the end of the podcast.
Okay, so coming to your first one, is like, all right. So your question is, why would I think about the 5-7 year plan is what you're saying. I mean, to be honest, I mean, very, very, very frankly, I don't have like a fixed 5-7 year plan. I mean, because we don't know how this is going to go, because when we started Spenny, we had no idea we'll get into YC. There is, like, a lot of things change along the way. There are too many variables. So you really can't have all the plans on day one. It's very difficult to have all the plans on day one. And therefore, I don't think that really whatever I'm going to say that, I'm going to, I mean, I don't think we can have a legit exit plan at this moment, because it's too early to say. So I'm not sure what's the right way to answer a question. To be honest, I don't know. I don't know what is beyond 5-7 years, or um, who knows? Maybe we just keep continuing with this, and we grow bigger and bigger, and to an extent that, probably I'm spending my next 15 years on this thing. I mean, not literally on this thing, but, like, as variations or extents of this thing. Or who knows? I mean, we have to be prepared for every eventuality. It may just not work as well, or it may get acquired. I don't know. I think that's a very speculative question, and I feel like it's too early for us to take a call on that. Yeah, regarding your request, yeah, it's great. Except I think the problem is I would love to do it, but you probably won't get any like this thing noise. I mean, music out of it right now, because we generally need studio mics for that. I mean, even if I just do like all the like perform the music right now, we won't be able to get far. And by the way, Zoom has this ability to like sort of detect noise and remove it. So it considers this as noise. It doesn't consider this as music. So it's just going to remove that noise from the signals. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but like, yeah, that's true. So, like, first of all, I need to really like, I mean, this is the end of the podcast, and I would, really thank you from the bottom of the heart, for accepting the invitation to be with us here and, speak about your startup, your journey, your life, in BITS. So, I'm really thankful and grateful to you for that. I mean, I personally love this conversation. I got to learn a lot from you, and yeah, thanks a lot. Thanks a lot, Rathin.
No worries, Naman, and thank you so much, Naman and Darshan, both of you, for having me over and at this stage of our so early stage of our company. I think that's great of you. Thank you so much. I had a great time.
Thanks a lot.